new Superstars to be. So I feel like Superstars got to be thankful that Game 2 is there, especially after the momentum being on their side.
Who gets Dahaka? Who gets Malthael? My immediate question, what does the solo lane setup look like for these teams? Generally, Srey now in the solo lane position for them. He was even playing Abathur last game.
I think the biggest thing I want to see out of the members of Superstars is put a lot of emphasis on concentrating on making sure you have a winning top lane and a lot of concentration on the 1-4 sticking together. And there might be a chance, but what I see a lot of this, I'm expecting this is going to be a very slow game. It's Dragonshire with two teams that are going to play passive into the laning phase, so unless one kind of brings it up, it's going to be a 20-minute game. And when that happens, you got to consider globals. Globals and winning the top lane are the biggest thing if Superstars is going to have a chance in the series, because yes, the first game go in, and yes, I am still scared, but tempo, I mean, they're tempo. They've been at the top of NA for far longer than any of the members of Superstars ever have. So I feel like it's just, things have to be done if Superstars is still going to have a chance here.
There was an Abathur in the last game. Do you think there is any chance that we see one of these two teams draft Abathur again? We know Tempo Storm has played Abathur on Dragon, but it doesn't seem to be as much of a focus for them in Part 2 at least.
Yeah, I do think it's likely that Tempo Storm will select it if it seems optimal. I hope that Superstars tries to avoid it. I do think Dragonshire, even though Abathur is becoming more prominent in North America, he's had a short kind of life within the European scene. I don't know if he's still kind of looking as good on Dragonshire as he was originally in part number 2, but he does have trade-offs, much more than some of the other maps where you see Abathurs. I mean, but I don't think he's a poor pick, but he's not first pick as heavy and consistently as we see out of Tempo Storm or some of the other teams. I guess not even Tempo. They aren't as consistent with it as I'm claiming.
Yeah, they did, I just checked, play at the time that they beat Space Station handily on Dragonshire. And they had Abathur plus Dahaka so that he could, well, it was a lot of global focus, obviously, control of the globals, but Dahaka could still make sure to win the top lane, and then they didn't lose too much in the other lanes while Abathur was ramping up.
That was 5th pick, I believe, on the Abathur lock-in. Was the very last slot for them in that draft. So if that is going to happen here once again, Tempo Storm has a chance. They are the 2nd pick because they did, in fact, choose the map.
And what about Medivh? Is he a problem? Ooh. Superstars, the cool thing about Superstars in Medivh, when they're in the first pick position, they never ban it here. They love having Medivh. They're saying, we're willing to first pick Medivh if we want to. They would force Roll20 to ban Medivh even in their series.
But there's got to be, you got to be thinking past just the one pick though here, Gilly, because the Malthael ban, then Tempo Storm, let's say they let the Medivh go through, but then they put more concentration into the tier 3 on top. You pick the winning top laner, you double band into that, so you either choose the winning top lane or Medivh bodies into the 4. It is a huge trade-off. Again, I agree with what you're saying, and I like the call out that Superstars is willing to do that, but if Tempo Storm sees that and is willing to risk it, they can essentially make that risk in that kind of stability of Superstars look honestly a little foolish, depending on if they can fully punish that aspect of the draft. Because Medivh has to be a part of the 1-4, and the Malthael ban is screaming, I want Dahaka in the top lane. And then we've got to be considering the Falset factor. If you put Falset in with that, they let the Medivh through. Tempo Storm, bit of a call out.
Yeah, I still think Superstars will stick with Dahaka in the top because of the Malthael ban. Not sure what other top laners really that we've seen Srey play, just because we haven't seen, we've only had one series with him so far.
I think I'm willing to say that I think at some point in time I've seen Srey play a Leoric.
Chen.
And so, and a Chen. Yeah, those are some of the offlaners they'd be willing to go. Any of the Warriors, but ETC is the selection for first pick for Superstars. An adjustment from them for sure. It's pretty apparent ETC's here to stay for North America. Everybody's busting him out.
Whether he is the top lane or ends up being Airho's hero as a more of a control in the mid-bot rotations. Genji's still up, and Genji seems to be Tempo Storm's big priority for a hero. He would offer a lot trying to rotate up to the top and get ganks, but in seeing that there was a Malthael ban, surely Dahaka is here, yes?
I would think so. I think this is like a Dahaka Falset for Tempo. I think the Falset has to be high priority with the bans the way that they are and the globals going in, and more importantly, the way that this game is going to play out with the laning situation. Nobody's too proactive. There's the Dahaka. And they go with the Greymane, still sticking to standard. here. But they are avoiding the Genji.
Has Superstars been picking Genji very much? I don't think they have.
They haven't been too much. Not from what I can recall. I do believe that there's been, I mean, here or there, but after originally weeks 1 and 2 when Hosty busts out the Genji and they weren't too successful, they pulled away in priority, and since then it's not really ever come back. Yeah,
it's Lunara just all the time. That was a cool composition that Superstars played on Dragon. The one Dragon game that they played is Chen plus Lunara. Any chance we get Chen? What does Chen Dahaka look like?
In a game, it's a 1-3-1 strategy where you just gank the side lanes. Arthas.
They're definitely going to get Lunara later. That's what that looks like to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does seem like that has got to be a later Lunara here into the draft. But what it says to me is a losing laning situation. There is now a Dahaka who is going to be uncontested in top. I don't think that, again, you talked about the Lunara. There's no gank potential up towards the northern lane. Do you win the 4-man that effectively? You have a lot of kill potential. You got wave clear out of the Rhaegar, ETC to be the body up in front, and a lot of kill, again, between the Arthas ETC. But if you put Arthas up on top, he will lose into the Dahaka in the long run. You lose in the globals. It's just, it's, again, high ETCs without emphasis into the solo lanes every single time. If you ban into a solo, I feel as if you have to go in that direction. Or you have to make up for it through your 4-man. And neither team seems to be willing to give that emphasis. But Genji being banned out, not what I expected for Tempo.
Yeah. I was wondering maybe Superstars takes the Falstad?
I hope they do. That's what I want to see. If they go into the Falstad, I feel a lot better about Superstars. But if they go with that, again, the Lunara, we seem to be indicating here with the pickups, it get a lot worse. But the Falstad makes up for all those problems. You now can consider the 4 up on, or the gank up on top. You have the global for the late game. It is very, very, very forgiving. And more importantly, we talked about Hosty. I mean, he originally made a name for himself on that one. Or we can go way back, B-Kid style, bust out the Zag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't bust out the Zag, Superstars. Lag Force, somehow make it look good. Just let Lag Force do that and somehow make it look good.
Let B-Kid do B-Kid things.
Yep.
And I am drawing a big question mark for this draft. It's
different.
Strange.
It's very different when it comes to priority for Superstars is making adjustments, and Tempo seems overly reactive and not necessarily having a game plan, to me, is what I see unfolding, especially after that Genji ban. It kind of is just going like, you know, and then eventually somebody goes, Genji's kind of scary, and they're like, yeah, we probably don't want to deal with Genji.
Yes. They get the Medivh, and then is it Johanna here? What's the warrior that they want to run with this?
Hold on.
The last time they ran Medivh on Dragon.
Stukov.
Yes! We get June Stukov again. So waiting on the warrior. I think it'll be Johanna. Meanwhile, Superstars, is it Lunara? They have Falstad.
Oh, it's Falstad or Gul'dan. One of the two. If it's not one of those two, who could it be? If you go to the Lunara, it's going to struggle into the 4-man because Medivh now wins the 4, especially with Stukov to provide a lot of the wave clear to match in. Greymane's okay. And the front warrior we talked about could be the JoJo. If they go into that, you definitely lose the 4. Even though there is a lot of things on the side of Superstars, it's just Tempo Storm can do it easy from a range, whereas Superstars has to be a melee form, and that is never a good thing in the world of wave clear. So you have to make up for that in your only range that you can commit to the bottom half of the map, unless I'm incorrect and they're willing to venture.
What about both? Nailed it.
I've never had that happen in my life. Not necessarily 2 picks in a rotation, but more me kind of feeling like I want 2 and then I get both. Like, sometimes 1, but not both. So now the Gul'dan makes up for the 4. Falstad gets the threat up in the top, and you still got. You have an AoE to be able to deal with the Horrify late game into a Medivh. It's not a counter, but it's like a equal high impact to Leyline. If they mess it up, you Horrify counter. Things look really, really good.
Things make sense.
They do. And then the Falstad gank up on top. Garrosh picked up for Tempo. Talk about a Roll20 draft. Tempo Storm. Taking a just flat out looks like they took Roll20's notebook, went up to Glaring's house, said, go ahead, give me this one. Yep, I'm just going to rip this puppy out.
You don't mind, right?
Yeah, it was cool. We drafted the exact same composition. The Garrosh, Medivh, Stukov, they were the first to bust out the 3.
Generally, the Stukov was on Tomb of the Spider Queen, though.
And with a Chromie instead of a Greymane.
But what do we know that we have? We have Tempo Storm looking for combos. They have follow-up with Stukov. Medivh can drop down a portal so that you can catch them even on the retreat back. Dahaka will be up in the top lane. And Medivh can even go up and help Dahaka if there is a problem with a Falstad, a pesky Falstad flying around Dahaka. But Superstars have good wave clear. They have a ton of lockdown between ETC and Arthas. I like both of the comps. What do you think?
I like both the comps, and I do feel that Tempo Storm should be able to pull ahead. But it requires being extremely proactive at all points in time. And so now I'm kind of second-guessing because the Medivh portal essentially makes your 1-4, have to be extremely proactive with the portals. So if you fail to make up for that, I do think they'll be able to.
Yeah.
But let's just say there's a world where they don't, then I think it gets really, really ugly really quick. I think the biggest thing for me in this whole game is going to be the fall set. I brought it up to the draft multiple times because I think it is that impactful towards how this is going to play out, especially in the late game, and mainly the pressure it applies towards tops. Superstars, with the draft decision-making they made, they gave up the 4-man. By not going into the Medivh, banning out towards the top lane, and not being willing to pick a strong solo, so you have to make up through it by your fall stat play. Baby the 4, make it not look terrible, fall stat flies up, hopefully looks for a kill, or at least makes Dahaka second-guess some kind of a decision and not push into the Arthas.
We'll watch Fury's Dahaka play then in dealing with just that. Let's get into game 2 on Dragonshire between Superstars and Tempo Storm.
And it's still a hard concept to just grasp here. That Superstars is up a game over Tempo Storm.
I know.
I mean, it's just... Echo Corruption is the level 1. It's back, apparently, in North America. That's the third Gul'dan in a row who's willing to pick that one up instead of the traditional Q build that we have seen for oh so very long.
Yeah, but the standard has settled into Echoed Corruption and Ruinous Affliction, but not Bound by Shadow for cooldown reduction. If you want to have the quest done by 16 when you get Ruinous Affliction, but having your hunger for power to give you that additional ability power, make those corruptions pack a punch. You're not going to have them up as often as if you had the cooldown reduction with Bound by Shadow, but you will make sure that they hurt, especially once you get to 16 and finish that quest.
And Tempo Storm with this Garrosh pick, their cattle, going with the increased range on the tops, the unrivaled strength from them, so more of the build that we saw displayed by the members of Roll20. Yoda was flipped in, nice power slide to get some peel out there. Cattle moved forward, trying to get a bit more offensive, but not necessarily the damage dealer for Tempo Storm is going to be Garrosh. And the laning proceeds to unfold here on Dragonshire.
The positioning of Airho was awesome because the toss just set Yoda right next to Airho, and then conveniently you could power slide to give Yoda time to escape. We'll be watching the wave clear of Superstars compared to Tempo Storm. Not getting Johanna and instead getting Garrosh hurts that in quite a bit. Psalm can try to help with that as long as he's positioned in a way that he can hit heroes at the same time as he hits minions, but you can already see that the wave clear, the heroes, the Gul'dan, working out really well for Superstars, but it's Tempo Storm who gets the first kill.
And the portal over the wall. No way. He
48
makes
armor's
it out.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it turns out that's a really useful tool. Only, taking a small percentage of the amount of damage being put out. Cattle keeps himself alive in June, controlling the bottom half of the map. The Dahaka versus the Arthas hasn't been too big of a problem. Hosi flipped over. Cattle's doing a very good job so far there on the Garrosh to get that pressure into this 4-man. He's done more so than maybe even the Medivh has done so far.
Yeah, he has, and it's really important that he continues to do that because that slows down the wave clear, the push of the lanes toward the towers, draining the ammo and then allowing for some free structural damage. June has been hanging out in the bottom lane. It does seem like June often is one of the solo laners, ends up by himself trying to deal with a minion wave.
I shot called and played support, and I found myself in that situation a lot more often too. I personally enjoy it because as long as somebody, it doesn't have to be the support, but oftentimes the support seems the easiest because when things get hairy through mid, they just come bottom and you throw them a heal, keep them alive, and walk away from the situation. But I actually don't know if there is a strategical advantage to consistently see that, nor why Tempo Storm goes in that direction, especially when June's on non-wave clear supports. It seems a bit kind of awkward.
Yeah, playing Uther.
Yeah.
We've seen him there a couple times.
Hammer Justice slap.
Yeah.
Like a wet noodle.
But Stukov and Rhaegar, it's a little bit better for him to be able to deal with that.
Still at level 4, they're going with the Indomitable for Caterpillar, so not quite the traditional or original build we saw busting out from those members, but I feel like the level 4 has been flexible and is going to be flexible. Yoda, that's the 3rd time he's almost gotten pulled away. Nice totem to get the punishment here. That one was just barely out of max range, but I want to highlight, like, maybe in the future, if he gets in the same range as Cattle, maybe going in rather than outward, because otherwise that keeps going down.
Otherwise, this
he's gonna
will
be fine.
What happens. Does he have
Cattle's
crowd
dead.
surfer?
Or not, he's got heals.
No. He power slid through Cattle to make sure that Cattle takes the damage. Then he proceeds to just walk away. He sacrifices his Gul'dan. Maybe not ideal.
But it brush talks, so that's a worth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just a fat ol' worth on this one. What are they going to do with the downtime? I love the fact that we see up in the top lane, just patiently waiting as the Arth is trying to cut off the choke and anybody wants to move up. And that is not pushing out the wave at all. He's getting all the experience, and he's keeping vision of anybody if they want to make the transfer up. Granted, Dahaka can use
Just
Dark
walk
Swarm
through.
and move through heroes, but he's literally the only hero that can go to that lane and do that rotation safely.
Yeah.
All other cases, Arthas gets killed. Small plays, but again, they add up here. Competitive heroes.
Level 7 versus 7. June waiting on his level 7 talent. Was under fire, so maybe we'll pick it now. Everything else looks what we would expect. This is the level 7 Medivh, which means it's time to start stacking the Master's Touch.
Temple Storm has not, for a really other than the first minion wave, had much control over the laning situation. They do have a small moment where they did sacrifice control to be able to pick up these Knights. And I want to see if they are able to capitalize with that here. Because if they fail to do so, I do feel like this first Dragon Knight's going to go over to Superstars. Rhaegar is even solo starting a Knight camp on his own. That's how confident the members of Superstars kind of have been with this laning situation. And normally, Tempo's the team to do that, even when they don't necessarily have an advantage. They just really enjoy mercenary pressure into the middle downtime of Dragon Knights.
All 4 of Tempo Storm, except Dahaka, have rotated to the bottom lane to get that shrine. And Superstars are posturing in the mid to make sure that they can deny this Dragon Knight. Arthas stops attacking the Bruisers and now is just trying to take back. So Dahaka is the one squatting on top of that. Nice pull from Airho. He power slides in, stops it once.
But he uses knockback, so it's the last interrupt possible. Stukov went down in bottom lane, converted over. Superstars looking super. Even getting the victory here. Psalm has a force of will. Nice barrel roll from Hosi. 10's going to be picked up for Superstars. They control both shrines. This is the dream situation now.
Yep.
Superstars got a Dragon Knight and their heroics. Soon TM on that one. Gilly.
It just felt like Tempo Storm were a little too spread out there. Like Stukov in the bottom by himself. There were a couple of people who could go in. Airho stalled twice, and yet they wanted to try to get the Dragon Knight. Stukov by himself on the shrine versus 2. Losing him now, and Superstars have a level lead, a Dragon Knight. They did a lot of damage to this bottom lane because it was mostly a solo Stukov laning. And now they're going to get a fort from it. I
got scared for a moment. I forgot Iacona's in this game. I was like, there's no world this is a bloodlust, right? And finally, we see the Ancestral Healing being locked in. Took a very serious moment going like, there's about to be a Leyline Seal. Have we taken that in consideration? Superstars, though, they know. They've got it on lockdown. Iacona, he knows how to support.
Is Kona's Twitter handle or his
motto
still the Tilter of Casters?
The Tilter of Casters. I think it's pretty close.
This is a dream.
Horrified dropped after that flip. That's onto a Garrosh, though. A lot of armor going to be used
that
there.
Taunt.
Big AoE taunt, Leyline Seal afterwards. How much can Fury's Dark Swarm get done? First drop, that's Gul'dan. Gust used, Portal Blade.
Fury's going to run back in, but Srey looping around to be the slowdown to get the rest of the team out. So a 1-4-0 trade, but Tempo Storm lost their fort in the process. They're still behind. Use a lot of heroic abilities, but they want to use the time where they have a man advantage to get something. They go for the invade. Airho scares him off.
You want to know an interesting situation there? Did you see that invade that we saw at Tempo Storm right there? And just the fact that they were willing to flex that. In almost all cases where you're down a man and your opponent's willing to immediately invade that giant camp and their giant camp's up, about a 0% chance they go even trade with you, take the fight. Not always. Once in a while. If you think you can't win the game, it's the best fight to take because it's most of the time it will be an even trade, but your opponent is relying on your lack of information to not know that and to not be confident and to give it up to your opponents. If we had seen Superstars turn there, granted, I mean, again, they were making the right decisions considering the information they have, but their hits a level when it becomes too predictable. And I'm just waiting for the day.
Stage dive?
Oh, it's a whole party up in here.
Quickly became... Fury and Medivh were there, and then Falstad flies up. ETC stage dives in. Everyone wants to be up the top. That's where the cool kids hang out.
That's where they, you know, throw down the fisticuffs. 13 Talontiers almost picked up for Superstars, and when they get it, what do we have? Is there any major one? Falstad actually is one of the few ranged assassins in the game that hits a huge power spike at 13.
Yeah, whether it is Flow Rider or Giant Killer, a lot more damage there is a possibility. Probably Giant Killer, given that we see Seasoned Marksman and Hammer gains. So an auto attack build for Falstad will help a lot versus the Garrosh, especially having Giant Killer to cut through his armor, but also will help with the Dahaka.
Bottom shrine controlled by Gul'dan. Top's going to be captured by Dahaka. Tempo Storm still looking around for their 13 Talontiers. We're back through to the Dragonite laning phase. Last time, Tempo Storm kind of was just reactive, trying to find a way to match the pressure Superstars seemed to apply. It wasn't fast. It wasn't as hasteful as some of the others, but and in fact was applied, and Tempo did not seem to find the answer within a reasonable amount of time.
Tempo's strategy was to get their bruisers, let Dahaka sit with them in top, hopefully move all the way to the bottom and then get that, and then go up to mid to get the Dragonite. The problem here is they no longer have their bottom four, so that is going to be pushed further out against them. And they had to give up top with Dahaka stalking all the way at bot just to make sure that they maintained control of one of the two shrines. They're going to push in the bottom lane with the numbers advantage that they have here.
Falstad's going up on top too to replace the Arthas, abusing the double globals and splitting them on two halves of the map. Superstars can be anywhere they need to be to get the experience or controlling over top of those shrines. Very impressive transition from them. Medivh and Dahaka are going to match, so it's a full 2-on-2 on top and a 3 versus 3 on bottom. Definitely not the biggest advantage for Hosty considering it's a Medivh. Medivh just breaks the rules, man.
He's hiding, setting up to try to take the Dragonite as soon as the shrines are grabbed. There are the shrines. Som sees this. Som is a great person to try to stop the Dragonite, and Tempo Storm shows up in mid. They have Dahaka top, Dahaka against the Falstad.
He's going to get it. He will be able to restore that. Falstad goes back to be able to match him on top. Nobody starts the channel.
But the Bruisers go down. It did do some damage to the top four.
The Cattle gets the toss. Drag, excuse me, but he's not going to get the toss.
Arthas heading up to Dahaka. Som's there as the Medivh too, and Fury dodges Howling Blast.
But both of these are going to be controlled by the members of Superstars. Silence goes down onto Urho. He's able to power slide out after that is interrupted. Brush Dog coming in for Fury. He's got a drag knockback use. Falstad shows himself. Sray's getting the flank, drops. The Army of the Dead. Gust is used. He's silenced. Dragonite's picked up. Superstars can't fight anymore.
The Gust pushed Tempo Storm all the way back just long enough for Superstars to get the Dragonite.
If Superstars focus top lane with this, they'd move to the other priority lane and get the 16 Talontiers over Tempo Storm. It is going to be a very difficult Dragonite phase. The next Dragonite phase for the members of Tempo. So far, though, Superstars is trying to abuse that ETC Global and keep him into a different lane than the Dragonite so they get experience in both areas. It just feels, with a mid-game Dragonite, with the buffs that have come into him, it's even more reasonable that this should be a fort for sure, no matter what situation unfolds.
Yeah, they're rotating around quite a lot. It's obvious they're trying to figure out what the best move is with this Dragonite, and they do still have some time. They've got 30 seconds now.
They commit, just feels a little bit too late, but they have the 16 now, so the members of Tempo are going to want to back out. Drag goes through. Kattle's not able to be successful with that one. No Howling Blast, at least not in a lethal range there for Superstars. And they walk away after the fort. Portal goes through onto Hosty. The flip's there. The taunt, Horrify, peels away, but it keeps Garrosh into all the members of Superstars, and they take that kill nice and clean back out to the Giants, and they're about to go round the horn, Gilly.
Shout outs to Iacona with that great Ancestral Healing, keeping Hosty alive after he was clearly the target for Tempo Storm. No Garrosh for 20 seconds. Superstars do go around the horn, picking up some Giants as they go, looking to siege out against these keep towers in the bottom while ETC stays in the top. He's done a lot of damage to that fort.
I just want to say I was promised that you would never make a sports ball reference up here, and you in fact said around the horn.
Was that sports?
It is. Traditionally.
I thought it was something like
no, when you get 3 outs.
Coming around the mountain.
No, when you get 3 outs, you throw it around the horn. It's just a fancy way to show to your opponents that you're better than them.
Oh, I thought it was just a locational based thing, like on the map. Oh, I'll be there. I'm just coming around the horn. I'll be there in about 10 minutes.
I think it's a cool phrase, and I'm willing to adapt it that way, but I'm still taking my sports ball reference when I can get it.
Well, there you go. Never did you think the day would come, but it is here. Sports is here in Heroes of the Storm.
And more importantly, the top fort's dying for Tempo. Superstars is busting open this map in Dragonshire. About the worst one that you can make it happen if you do not have advantageous laning situations. And Tempo Storm, they're out of those. They have lost that opportunity to claim that for themselves.
The Final Four has collapsed.
I just feel like this is it. Tempo's got to do something different than phase number 1 and number 2. And it's prepped a little bit worse than the last. The pressure on the camp up on top is going to be taken for Superstars. They have an advantage huge up on top now knowing it's fortless. If we see the fall set, or is it going to be the ETC matchup? Looks like ETC will be the one to match Dahaka. That's a little bit not as successful as the fall set could be, just because fall set can pressure more and securing the shrine more likely, but not too big of a trade-off for Superstars.
Bruisers helped Superstars a lot, especially because the fort is gone. ETC should have no problem getting that shrine and hanging out there for a few. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Superstars will have to deal with the Bruisers from Tempo Storm, the bot Bruisers. That gives some time for Tempo Storm to hold onto the shrine. They know ETC's up in the top. They know that that's a global with stage dive.
That's right. He tries to get pulled.
This is the place of battle.
A lot of damage already on the Cattle. He gets healed up. That was a passive used by June, but it was reset thanks to his talents. Urho comes in with a stage dive. Silence onto Army of the Dead. Drag goes on to Hosty. The taunt is going to be used. Ancestral does land.
Horrify is already down. Leyline Seal captures 3. Hosty is the target, but he uses Gust to push away Tempo Storm on him now.
Dominating this fight.
Stray and Arrow going on top of the 2. Psalm and Cattle in trouble, but it's Cattle.
Falset's going mid.
He gets the stun from that 16 talent. There's the portal. Stray's low.
Stray is going to go down, I think, except for the 4-man Howling Blast out of that portal. Knockback from Urho and a Dragonite captured through mid. Superstars is winning across the board here, or around the horn as we have decided to make the term. But they are just lighting up the members of Tempo Storm, and now it seems a bit more calculated with this Dragonite. They seem to be a little bit more confident with the positioning of it. They're going to round the 16. Tempo almost inevitably is going to move past this DK and try and force, knowing that Hosty with that Gust is in it. He's not going to want to drop it, and more importantly, 20 will be picked up after this keep.
It is so close. Superstars winning on all fronts. There's the throw. It hits Stray. Stray has no Army of the Dead for 20 more seconds. Fury comes in. Drag not grabbing anybody. Arrow zoning him away as Hosty continues to take down the keep. The keep has fallen. Now Hosty, if he needs to, could drop the Dragonite to gust people away. Another drag.
Go. They get another drag. Stray's under pressure. Lurking Arm goes down. Urho's now the next to focus. Power Slide gets him out of range. Hosty questioning, should he disengage with the Dragonite? I would like to see him do it here because it will split them. Horrify gets dropped. We find Yoda in a terrible position. He's trying to kite away, but Cattle goes down first.
Cattle's already out of the fight as things get worse for Tempo Storm. They lose their Medivh. Howling Blast at the very edge catches Cawthon.
And they just jump right over top of it. The members of Superstars, they doesn't afraid. Cawthon down, and it looks like, am I going to actually say this?
You are going to say this.
It looks like Superstars might be able to take this game as there is only a June and Fury remaining. And more importantly, not will they take the game, they will go up in this series 2-0 over Tempo Storm.
This is the second time this weekend one of us has had to say the phrase. The team who is lower in the standings is sitting pretty at 2-0 over a team higher up the standings. That one happened to be Space Station over Gale Force Esports. Space Station ended up cleaning that series out 3-0. Will Superstars do the same versus Tempo? I have no freaking clue, man.
I just find it amazing. If you remember, when Tempo was by far the most dominant team in North America,
There was a lot of where I was talking about the aggression where it felt like they were never really kind of forcing the hand of their opponent. And I related them to a team named Superstars. How Superstars was constantly waiting for their opponents to make a mistake and make a play. And then we highlighted the slow development and growth in the members of Superstars when they finally started to identify where they can capitalize on the mistakes of their opponents, where they can make plays. And granted, they have not honed that in perfectly by any means, but you can see the growth. I mean, they're 2 up over Tempo. I just never thought there would be a day where maybe the depreciation of the lack of pressure of Tempo Storm got so low as to Superstars would have a more dominant leaning phase and situation than that of Tempo. I just did not think there would be that kind of world ever. And I say oftentimes macro comes before team fighting, always. If you can win that, you have a better chance of at least getting one fight on even footing. And Tempo is failing in that avenue. And Superstars normally is a team who's begging to get that even fight and just like, hold on. And they're not at any point being pushed, not even kind of pressured by Tempo. And unless that happens, I have no reason to believe the series is going to change. Superstars, right now, it's a 3-0 over Tempo unless Tempo can collect themselves. And they had confidence words this week, and I immediately responded to you. Tempo has had confident words before. I want to see them show up. Here, this is Superstars of all teams.
Well, it's time for the reverse sweep for Tempo Storm. It's time to collect themselves. We're taking a break, and when we come back, Game 3.